hmm Compliance isn't in this encyclopedia. And just to reiterate, I pay for both kinds of plastic surgery for the medical need of women. I plan on having intimate love making. Yes. But for some of them, they need it before because of the birth of a baby or a few babies or maybe five babies. I really don't look at a woman because of the number of children that she already has when she volunteers. I'm more, well, there are some women that have four or five kids that have suggested to me that I know a few more is not going to hurt anybody. Now, um, both. Well, something we talk about before we have kids, right? They it shouldn't be more than an eighth of an inch outside of the outer labial lips. So we wouldn't want it to be uncomfortable. Yes. Now, this competency-based education, yes. The CBE curriculum developers, yes. I had found out about the All American Scholars Program for some athletes. I don't really understand how it works, but I'm very attracted to women that are very, very smart. I think this whole concept of intellect can be stimulating. Now, wouldn't it be frustrating if your labial lips were a half an inch outside and you're like, oh, there's something uncomfortable with my sexual experiences? Ooh. Well, could you get me every All American scholar in this nation? Those that are, well, I'd just like to know. Now, uh, smart, athletic women that are very attractive, that just need to have those trimmed up a little bit, that want to volunteer to give me maybe one, two, or three kids. Yes, that would agree to, oh my gosh, continue to have the largest breasts because of their natural breast form from lactation. A lot of people find that it's a vanity, but it's really not. If your breasts stretch, the breast implant should be the size of how big your breasts have stretched. It's what should be. You can always make them smaller later. Now, I know. Could you get me all the citizens of Colombia? You know, just to explain, I did do some research about cocaine. It is the best natural nerve ending stimulant. Now, it's outlawed in the United States. It's against the law to have it. But as a pharmaceutical, I had a father that lost his leg to a motorcycle accident. He's an amputee. And it's what's called his phantom pains. So let's say you experience the loss of a limb. Pooch. They cut it off, they sewed it up. They said, so sorry about that, but you still feel it. And it can be very, very painful that these nerve endings that are severed are not able to reattach themselves to the skin of the end of the stump, and they call it a stump. Yes. They have the technology today that could stimulate those nerve endings because they don't really deaden. And cocaine as an actual pharmaceutical could stimulate the nerve endings to attach themselves to the stump so that you wouldn't experience phantom pains. And it can be very, very painful. Oops. In fact, could you get me all the amputees of the United States? There shouldn't be that many of them. But it seemed that some amputees were able to use their stump, many of their limbs, either legs or arms, so as to beat on a person because of the effect of losing a limb. Their nerve endings are, well, they're somewhat erratic. It's kind of like walking around with no arm, and then all of a sudden you feel it. Then you feel the pain of not having an arm. Yes, and it is a painful experience. Whereas if at the time of the actual amputee operation, if you stimulated the nerve endings in the actual wound so that they would reattach themselves, yes, there's the best natural nerve ending numb uh, medication known as heroin. Yes. hmm And then you numb those nerve endings so they kind of go to sleep for a couple weeks. It should cause the effects of not having to have to experience phantom pains after having had an amputee surgery. Oh, see, the pharmaceutical industry and the government have outlawed some drugs because of their harmful effects for recreational users or those that are drug dealers or drug users. But what they did in that process is they left out the very positive medical purposes for why you would want to use them. It would be at the time of the surgery. First, you would stimulate the nerve endings so as to want to attach to the stump itself, and then you would numb the nerve endings so that after approximately 2 weeks of cocaine nerve ending use, right? And this is something you can do specifically to those nerves. Yeah, that as the stump heals, you don't experience the sensations of phantom pains that you would if you didn't do it this way. Okay. Now, the medical community needs to realize. See, what I wanted to do is I realized Colombia could be involved in certain illegal drugs. But I could go in there and build them some schools, libraries, and hospitals at my expense. And then just buy up all the cocaine so there's nothing available to those on the street. I'm sorry to tell you that. Then I could take it, I could give it to a pharmaceutical company, and it could be used specifically for nerve ending stimulation when having surgeries, so as to reduce the amount of pain and pain medication after that happens. In fact, why don't you, find out when you decide to cut somebody's leg off, what the fuck do you do to give me every amputee in this nation?